this evening to the person or family of the year. And I'd like at this time to ask everybody to rise for a prayer. Dear Lord, as we begin this evening honoring Kevin Ryan and his family, let us thank you for having this family in Winchester. And let us pray that John Ryan, Kevin's dad, who is in a nursing home, and his brother Bruce Ryan, who is ill, may feel this evening our thanks and our prayers. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, excuse me, Mr. Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 31st Outstanding Citizen of the Year Award, sponsored by the Winchester Chamber of Commerce. And without further ado, let me introduce the main man this evening, Kevin Ryan. And ladies and gentlemen, up in the front tables, there's several close relatives of Kevin's that I'd like to introduce to you all, and I'll ask that they rise when their name is called and remain standing until we call all five of them. First, his lovely wife, Carol. And second, his son, Andrew, who was the one who was talking when we were just beginning the prayer. And then we have Melissa, who is Kevin's sister. Hello, Melissa. Then two of my favorites, Andrea and Uncle Bill Ryan. And finally, Kevin's niece, Kimberly Rodriguez. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got, I think it's 12 speakers tonight, and so I thought I would announce the rules because I have to be home for the first period of the Bruins game. But what we do, and we've done in past years, and I hope it's not offensive to anybody, but I talked to the wait staff and the people who are serving, and they have no problem with this at all. But what we're going to do is we'll start eating, and from time to time during the meal, we will have a speaker. And that way we'll get on with the program. And I hope you will become quiet when we do have a speaker here, and we should be able to move through some very interesting speakers, some of whom have only been recently released. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your meal. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce as the first speaker this evening, the chairman of the Winchester Board of Selectmen, James Johnson.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. To the Ryan family, thank you from the town of Winchester. You truly are an institution in our community, one that we look forward to stopping in, saying hi, and letting them just know that we're there and caring. One thing about Fells, it's more than just a place to stop and say hi. It's a place that people that run it care about our community. They're there when you want them, but more important, they're there when you need them. And for that, everybody appreciates that. The Ryan family has truly made Winchester a better place to live, and for that, we thank you. And with that, I'd like to, in some very small way, the Board of Selectmen would like to express their appreciation for everything you've done to our town of Winchester. And with that, I'd like to say, let it hereby be known that the Board of Selectors office is hereby most sincere congratulations to the Ryan family in recognition of many years of service to the town of Winchester and its community. As Citizens of the Year, it truly represents people that Winchester are. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and appreciation for hopes of good fortune in the future, continued success. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, sitting at the same table with Jim is two other members of the Board of Selectmen who I'd like to introduce. Tom Howley and Brian O'Connor. And the people who should be honored at that table as well, if they were the three wives, would please stand up. If you knew them, if you knew the selectmen like I do, you'd really feel sorry for the three of them. They're sitting at the same table with me because I got a free ticket and I had no choice of where I sat. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to introduce our state representative. I know he's here, and Jason Lewis. There you are.
Thank you, John, and good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be with you on this occasion and to present a citation to Kevin Ryan and the Ryan family from the Massachusetts legislature. One of my fondest memories when my wife Susan and I first settled in Winchester in 1998 was going into Fells Hardware. I must have been looking for a plumbing part or something like that. And just the friendly, warm reception, the small town feel made us appreciate we made the right decision in settling in Winchester. Also, just before I read the citation, I have to just deliver a message from my 7-year-old who wanted me to pass along to you that she really appreciates the munchkins on Saturday mornings and hopes that you'll continue to provide them. Thank you. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to the Ryan family in recognition of your hard work, your dedication, your exceptional service, and for the achievement of being Winchester's Citizens of the Year. The membership of the House extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors given this 12th day of May 2010. Thank you very much.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a very interesting group is going to be the next presenter. Ellen Wilson and Gabriel Scott and several of their friends.
Yes, we're here to represent the housewives of Winchester. And as you may all know, sometimes as housewives, we get a little desperate. We have certain needs. And while we love our husbands very much, sometimes they can't meet all those needs. Sometimes they're out of town. Sometimes they're just not as skillful as they think they are. Sometimes we have to take things in our own hands because we know when we need something, we can count on the Ryans. Ladies, if I need a hammer, I go to Fell's Hardware. I go to Fell's Hardware, and what do I find? I find me a claw hammer, I find me a ball peen, I find a little Julie's hammer and a sledgehammer, hammers of every kind.
This meets my needs. I love a good tool.
Now that looks like it could meet every need.
Is it my turn?
Yeah. Because sometimes size matters. When I need a bell, I go to the bells. I go to the hardware to see what is there. And they've got sleigh bells, they've got service bells, they've got garden chimes. Who knows what else I could find if they'd only let me go downstairs.
Have you ever been downstairs? No, I hear it's like a cathedral.
Well, I've been in that little house out back, and the experience was amazing.
Now I've got this song in praise of the Ryans. So I go to the hardware to strike up a band. They're strumming on washboards, they're banging on galvanized tubs, they're playing on paint buckets and plungers. We're the happiest housewife in all of the land.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ellen and Gabrielle. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Carmen Morielli. Hello.
Good evening, Kevin, Ryan family, fellow True Value fans. When I heard that Kevin and the Ryans were being honored, Ellen and I thought that was just so perfect. And in fact, anyone that I talked with felt the same way. I just want to come down a little bag here. And after 20 years in Winchester and 2 homes, 3 children, a week doesn't go by that, you can sit, Kevin, that's it. A week doesn't go by that we don't find ourselves in Fellows True Value. And of course, you know, for the usual things, nuts, bolts, and hardware. But then, again, sometimes it's just for direction and support. And then again, it's almost like we're going into a little medical clinic. I walk in there with a little scratch in my hand, and Kevin will pull out the crazy glue and said, this will take care of it. And he's patching up my finger with crazy glue. I didn't know that he could do that. Then we have, I know the Greeks here know about Windex, but no disrespect, but Windex is used as on scrapes and scratches, and we appreciate that. But it was when my children started exercising and using those protein drinks, you know how they can disrupt your digestive system, and I asked, of course, Kevin for a good plunger, but he said, you want to get to the source of the problem. And the extra heavy mineral oil, now this is in their hardware store. It is extra heavy mineral oil intestinal lubricant. Tasteless, colorless, an effective intestinal lubricant for use in the treatment of constipation. Really, Kevin? In the hardware store. Well, when Mrs. A asked us to come and say a few words, Ellen and I are honored and to publicly share our gratitude and appreciation for the 20 years of all your support and help. And we're thrilled to be here tonight. I want to thank you. And last night, and another reason why I'm happy is because I always wanted to be in one of Mrs. A's shows, but she wouldn't let me because it was just for the kids. And we were watching Glee last night. You ever watch Glee? It's required, Mrs. A requires her students to watch Glee. Right, and that's your son's program? Does he need any, no? Okay. But last night, the students had to choose a song for themselves, right? And the song had to represent who they are. This sentiment of that without words, the song would express to everyone their purpose, their meaning. And we were talking, Ellen and I, what would Fellows True Values song be? The Red Sox have Sweet Caroline, right? What's your song? And we both came up with this one, and I really wish I could sing. I really do, but I can't. But I can get glasses. Like a DJ. And we want to offer this up as Fellows True Values song. All right? Just a suggestion.
Takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? All those nights when you've got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail, and your third fiancé didn't show. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Fellows True Values.
And they're always glad you came.
Kevin, Bruce, Jay, Mr. Ryan.
You can see the troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.
Kevin, thank you for doing all of our names and knowing us. Cheers.
Thank you, Doctor. Great show. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your meal. As I mentioned in the opening remarks, this is the 31st year for the Outstanding Citizen of the Year Award. And one of the things that has been customary is to try to encourage those recipients, past recipients, to come in. And I'm pleased that we have an opportunity tonight of 31 winners. We have 15 of them here. And so I would like at this time to introduce the winner from 1931, Representative Sherman Saltmarsh. And just a little aside, let's see how long he stays now that he's been introduced. Okay, next, in 1990, Paul Mahoney. Where is Paul? Judith Muja from 1992. Where is Judith? Sandy Thompson. Sandy Thompson from 1994. From 1995, Justin McGee. He must have paid for the whole table there. 1996, Ann McGovern. 1999, Charles Sekaris. Stand up, Charles, we can't see you. The guy with the wig. The 2001, Corey Nichols. A favorite of everybody's from 2003, Kevin Mon. Where's Kevin? A person who's been at every dinner ever offered in Winchester, Dot Butler. And she works at every one of them. 2005, Steve Parkhurst. 2006, TV personality Alan Iden. 2007, Alan McDonald. 2008, Carol Kent. And last year's winner in 2009, Marie Johnson. Thank you very much. I owe you. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Brad Otis.
A couple tough acts to follow tonight. So I want to say what a great pleasure it is to speak here tonight, share some of the great stories I had working at the hardware store. I started at the hardware store when I was about 14 years old and I could barely see over the countertop. I spent the next 10 years there. I wasn't in school or playing a sport. I was hanging out at the hardware store. Some of the great memories include Mr. Ryan calling me on Saturday mornings, waking me up, telling me he's coming to pick me up, drag me to work. Or when I was going to take my driver's test when I was 16, and he bought me a gift just in case I didn't pass. I passed, and he gave me the gift. Or when I was in, I worked there all through college, and obviously I drank too much, and on Saturdays I'd be hungover a couple times, and one Saturday I was out back getting sick, and Bruce is taking pictures just to remind me of what happens when you drink too much on a Friday night. Didn't help. But Kevin in particular, you know, he was not only an employer, he was a friend, mentor, father figure. He taught me a lot. Taught me how to fix most things around the house. Taught me how to set a mouse trap correctly. Taught me how to charm the ladies. But most of all, he taught me how to have a sense of humor. And I'm sure everyone knows this, but Kevin loves to play a practical joke. And so I got a couple practical jokes that Kevin, that I remember. And so his go-to practical jokes is if you ever asked the number for the pizza place down the road or the gas station across the street, he'd always give you 729-1212 or 729-121-2. Now, if you think about it, that's the Winchester Police Department. And so you'll be surprised how many people called that number and ordered a pizza, and we're very surprised to hear what happened. Another good one was an old employer of his named Michael. He used to have to walk by the hardware store on his way to the train to take the train into work. And so one cold morning, Kevin puts a big sign on the window that says, "If you worked here, you'd be at work right now." Sure, Mike didn't love that. But the best prank Kevin ever got on me was when I was about 15 years old. I had a moped and I was driving around town illegally, and so one day I'm sitting at the house and the phone rings. I answer it. "This is the Winchester Police Department. We're looking for Brad Otis." And I'm like, "Oh, geez, what's going on here?" And, you know, questioned me. "We hear you were driving a moped illegally." I said, "No, sir. I sold the moped. I don't know what you're talking about." And there's Kevin laughing on the other line. But so I've known the Ryans for over 20 years now, and of course when I turned 21, Kevin gave up drinking, and so now I hear that he's having one or two once in a while, so I figured tonight, him and I get to finally have a drink together.
He left his speech up here, so I'll give it to you. The next speaker is Claude Barton.
One page, Al. Hello, my name is Claude Barton, and I'm a customer at Phil's Hardware. I know what that sounds like, but if you're a hardware person like I am, you will understand. First of all, I'd like to talk about, first of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber for nominating the Ryan family and recognizing, honoring them tonight. Now, let's talk about the Ryan boys and what the Ryan boys and Phil's Hardware means to Winchester. You can buy just about anything there for your home or your business. Paint and painting supplies. They have carpentry tools and carpentry supplies, masonry tools, masonry supplies, electrical supplies, and electrical tools. And you can get all this with great service, advice, and a friendly smile from everyone who works at Phil's Hardware. And how about the people that the Ryan family seem to employ? High school students, college students, retirees, and, you know, the entire Fucillo family. Oh, did I say that out loud? Okay. Every one of these people have taken the experience of customer service with them for the rest of their lives. Now, there are other businesses in the area that also have benefited from the Ryan boys' honesty. I cannot recall how many times I've heard someone say, "Oh, you can get that up at Barker Lumber, 16 Prospect Street in Woburn." Or something like, "Yeah, they have that at Murray Supply, 5 minutes down the road, Mystic Ave in Medford." Or perhaps, you should take that up to P&M Walk. They can fix that. Main Street in Woburn. In fact, there's 20 businesses down the street on the right from the Rotary. You just can't get advertising like that in the phone book or on TV or on the radio. And you just can't buy it. It's a great thing. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that actually I'm a little disturbed, perhaps even a little peeved about something that only recently occurred to me. I always thought that maybe when I got a little bit older, and a part-time job down Fell's Hardware would be a pretty good job for a guy like me. I've worked most of my life farming, construction, repairing things, and a job down at Fell's would be a little easier on the knees and the shoulders, that type of thing. And it occurred to me that, well, Kevin Ryan and I are the same age. So by the time I get ready to retire, see, Bruce is older and John's their father. They'll already be retired. So Andrew, if you hang around, beware, because I might be coming. I've got the same stories I've been telling your father for 30 years. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, the Chamber, for honoring, and thanks everyone here tonight for honoring these fine men. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Flaherty. Where's Michael?
Yeah, really. Good evening. It's a pleasure to speak tonight on behalf of the Ryan family. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. When I was asked to prepare something, I couldn't help but to remember back to the good old days. I grew up in Reading. Yes, I'm a Carpetbagger, still after living in Winchester for over 30 years. I attended Parker Junior High School. I was there where I first met Kevin. I was in the 7th grade, he was in the 9th. The first day of shop class, Kevin arrived with a bag containing cans of stain and paints. The teacher, Mr. White, said, "Thanks, Kevin, you just got an A." We all knew right then and there that Kevin was going to be the teacher's pet. That he and Mr. White, right where he wanted him, and looking for more. Way to go, Kevin. Kevin and I became friendly again when I went to high school. We used to meet with many other friends at the water bubbler in front of the auditorium on Tuesday mornings. That was a cool place to be. We had a study period in the cafeteria right next to the auditorium. Everyone would leave before the second bell. Kevin and I would be alone until the bell rang. It was the highlight of our Tuesday. We would watch a particularly well-endowed young lady running every time from the far end of the hallway, full speed ahead, right past us into Mr. Anderson's class, and the last words out of her mouth were, "Hi, Kev, hi, Mike." Nothing like the late 60s. The good old days, Kevin. Kevin was given the name Stump. I asked him once why. He said, probably because I was 4'11", weighed 145 pounds. The good old days. Both Kevin and Bruce were involved in riding and racing motorcycles. They would race up at Epping. They would often practice across the street from their house in the Woburn Pit. The neighbors probably felt pretty safe with the Ryan boys in the neighborhood, as the Woburn and Reading police were always around looking for the boys riding the unregistered and uninsured motorcycle. Our paths crossed again later on. I married a girl from Winchester, my wife Kathy, and we bought our first home. Little did I know that she was a cop's daughter, and that eventually he would become the chief, Jack McHugh. The chief just suffered a stroke 6 weeks ago. His speech and right side has been affected. He continues to be in rehab and makes remarkable improvements every day. We know that if he were able, he would be here on behalf of the Ryans. As so many of you know, he spent a lot of time over the years in the back room of Fells. And as the lady said earlier, he does know what the downstairs looks like. Kevin married his high school sweetheart, Carol Barbaro. Carol and I went to middle school together, then high school. I'll never forget the time that some of you, if you think back, the KSC was going to build a new building. So we had a fundraiser. The first prize was $10,000. Well, guess who won the 10 grand? Kevin Ryan. And guess what Kevin Ryan did with the 10 grand? He bought an engagement ring for his wife, Carol, and the rest is history. It's a good old day. It's been many a day like a lot of us here. Whether I'm looking for a screw, a tool, paint, okay, easy, paint, a stain, it's always done with a helping hand from the Ryan family. Always done with a smile on their faces. The true value of this award tonight is to thank 4 generations of a family for serving proudly our community, full of grateful friends and customers. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Richard Howard. Where's Richard?
Hi there, I'm Richard Howard, and the chamber was kind enough to contact me to see if I wanted to participate in the roast of the Ryans, which immediately seemed like a great idea to me until I started thinking about it. And for 2 reasons, I kind of ran into a brick wall. One, after the award, their recognition was announced, I started hearing stories about the basement. And I knew the basement was an exciting place, but I didn't know about the parties in the basement, about whatever other goings on in the basement. Okay, whatever else goes on in the basement. I've recently read in blog sites on the web that it's rumored that the last episode of Lost was filmed in the basement. So a hindrance, if I were to roast the Ryans, this would probably not help one of my remaining life aspirations, which is to visit the basement now at Fells True Value Hardware. But the more serious impediment came to me when I really started to think about it, and I could think of a lot of ways to roast us, the customers, and myself in particular, for the innumerable times I'm in there with spending $1.99 and a half hour of consulting, or my wife bringing my son and his friend James Henry in when they were about 8 years old, and they'd handcuffed themselves together, and it was either Kevin or Bruce that unhandcuffed them, or myself making another important purchase on a Saturday afternoon spending maybe $1.85 helping to keep True Value Hardware afloat, and then went home to prepare for an out-of-town photographic shoot that I had. 15 minutes later, I got a phone call, and it was Kevin sitting outside my house, said, "You left your wallet on the counter. I think you might need this," which indeed I did. And at that point, I knew, as I recalled those things, and I could go give you many other examples, I really, for the Ryans, there's nothing to roast. They have grace, they're generous, they've served the community, and my hat's off to you, and I'm so excited that you got this award.
The next group is chaired by Carl Warner. I know, but he paid.
Are you going to get off the stage before I get on?
There's no way I'm standing on the stage with you.
Kevin, why are you looking so worried? I'm here representing the Winton Club stage crew and the Winton Cabaret Scenery Committee, also known as the Pearl Girls. So, just so you know who I'm representing, would all the stage crew members and the Pearl Girls just stand for a second so that Kevin knows who it is that's getting it to him? But everything's okay. Pammy May gave me very specific instructions about the Citizen of the Year in my talk. And this is not my handwriting. Let me read them to you. Citizen of the Year talk. My suggestions: be short, give credit to Sandy, thank people, shut up, sit down. Now, in putting... Okay, we're done. I'm not going to follow those suggestions, though, exactly, but I'm going to take a page from David Letterman and give you the 10 stage crew approved. I did it unilaterally. They don't even know what I'm going to say yet. Reasons why you, your family, and Fels Hardware deserve the Winchester 2010 Citizen of the Year Award. The number 10 reason: they provide contractor recommendations for those special little jobs. And we know how hard it is to get contractors for any job, never mind a little one. The number 9, already been covered by several people, but bearing repeating: if they don't have it, they'll get it, or they'll send you somewhere else to get it. The number 8, they extend credit to everyone and every organization of recognition in Winchester. So if you're in this room and you don't have credit at Fels Hardware, you are not recognized. The number 7, they'll put your poster up in the window as long as it is tasteful. Doesn't matter what the subject is. The number 6, and this is very important, particularly at this time of year, for all of you to bear in mind. They close for 15 minutes mid-morning, one Saturday per year for the Anchor Parade. It's a classy thing to do, sir. The number 5, they have children's toys on the bottom shelf to be played with, and they're not for sale. I can't tell you how many happy mothers I've seen in there with a kid sitting down while Kevin's giving them advice about what she really came in for. The number 4, they have dog biscuits in the office. Are you suggesting I should be eating the dog biscuits? I mean, that's the stage crew and the Pearl Girls giving me a hard time. All right, the number 3. This is for them. They have peanuts and Dunkin' Donuts munchies on the counter. The number 2. They're normal people. They get up every morning, they put their pants on, and they go to work. And the number 1, they always smile and say, "How can I help you?" And they mean, how can I help you? And now to move to my conclusion. The 0 reason. You know, this is like rafters in a house. There's 10 spaces, but you better make damn sure you buy 11 rafters, because otherwise you're going to go back to someplace other than Fells Hardware, because you don't sell rafters, to get another piece of lumber. The 0 reason you, your family, and Fells Hardware were chosen is they sell wrapping paper. Where's my assistant? He better be. Here he comes. And they sell it in May. Okay, Kevin, I'll admit, this is not paper. This is wrapping plastic.
We're going to return this in the morning.
And it's a token memento of this evening, created by the members of the stage crew and painted by Sandy Richardson. And if you wouldn't mind, would you come up here and take the paper off it? Friendship in the business of Fells Hardware. And that said, I'm going to back to Panny Mae's instructions, and I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to go over and sit down and shut up.
Not mine.
Oh, I thought he was leaving. And that was Bob Deering, who appeared on the program. And one of the previous speakers left their eyeglass case.
Told you you're getting old, Mr. Flaherty. Yeah, I know.
Our next speaker, representing the Winchester Boat Club, Charlie Price.
Thank you, John. It's always been my aspiration to call Carl Warner on a podium. I'll make this short. The Winchester Boat Club has been around for 110 years, and through most of those years, we relied on Fells Hardware to make that organization work. The club represents over 350 families in town, and I think every one of them, one way or another, has done business at Fells Hardware. So the club would like to recognize Kevin and his family in 2 or 3 ways. One is, he always wears this True Value hat when he's in the store. We've got a Winchester Boat Club hat that we'd like to see you wear, Kevin. And the second thing we'd like to have in the back wall of Kevin behind the cash register, there's photographs and lots of mementos of the occasion and things that he's collected over the years. One of the things that we'd like to have posted back there is the Burgee of the Winchester Boat Club. And this flies at the boat club every year, and it's if you know what it is, this is a moth, by the way. I don't know why the boat club flies a moth, but that's what it is. But I think the most important thing is, for all of us in Winchester, I think the most appropriate gift that the boat club can give Kevin and his family is a life jacket. for all the times that he has saved all of us from one way or another, and all the things that he and the Ryan family did. Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Glenn Doyle.
It's a great pleasure to be here tonight to receive this prestigious award. I'm sorry. To honor the Citizen of the Year. I'm sorry. Now, when they told me that the Citizen of the Year award this year would go to a well-known downtown business, well, I thought it was about time. A place where people meet, the hub of Winchester, if you will, and I immediately thought Starbucks. Long overdue. And then they told me it was Fell's Hardware, the Ryan family. And I said to myself, why? You know, everyone has a story, an anecdote, a special moment they experienced at Fell's Hardware where the folks at Fell's went that extra mile, gave that extra smile in the name of service. And I'd like to tell you a couple of mine, but I got nothing. But Judy Manso, you might have heard this. When we had the floods this year, the 20th 100-year flood of Winchester, the basement of her home on Main Street was flooded for the first time ever. Never happened before. No sump pump. It was Sunday morning. She was in a panic. She called Lowe's. No pumps. She called Home Depot. No sump pumps. She called Kevin Ryan at home on a Sunday. My basement is flooded, she cried. He answered, I'll be right there. He came down, sump pump in hand, and saved the day. That's the reason we honor Kevin Ryan tonight. The very next week, it was the 21st 100-year flood of Winchester. For the first time ever, my basement was flooded. No sump pump. It was Sunday morning. I was in a panic. I called Lowe's. No sump pump. I called Home Depot. No sump pump. I called Kevin Ryan at home on a Sunday. My basement is flooded, I cried. He hung up the phone. That's the Kevin Ryan we honor tonight. There are so many ways that Fell's Hardware contributes to our community. Many of you know that they employ part-time help and nurture them through their developing teenage years. They take on borderline delinquent high school students and shape them and mold them into borderline delinquent college graduates. Unbelievable. There is a member of the Fell's family, if you will, that I'd like to recognize. That's Jay. Where's Jay? There's Jay. Yes, yes. Affectionately known as Jay. Now, when you walk into Fell's, Jay is on the left. But make no mistake about it, he's way over on the right, if you know what I mean. Now, it's never good to approach Jay around noontime. He's got the Rush Limbaugh talk show booming from his $7 transistor radio, and he'll bite your head off at a moment's notice. But no, Jay, he does work hard, I'll give him that. He's always busy. I haven't a clue what he does. He never cuts keys. He never goes into the basement to get something. He never goes out back for cement. And he never climbs a ladder to reach for anything. He hides behind those green boxes all day long. And no matter what you want, he's out of stock. And it'll be system. If you go in on Tuesday, they just sold it. It'll be in next Tuesday. And remember, if Fells hasn't got it, you can always get it at Lowe's. Now, as we honour the Ryan family tonight, let's give a special salute to John and Bruce, who can't be here tonight. Let's give them a hand. Let's not forget Kevin's son, Andrew. Andrew Ryan's here tonight. I just think, Andrew, yes. You too can work behind a counter 12 hours a day with no lunch break, 7 days a week, deliver some pumps in the pouring rain, and in 40 years, this could all be yours. Lucky few to have a credit account with Fells Hardware, along with 16,000 other people. On your way out, Kevin will have a table set up if you want to bring your account up to date. Now, the Ryans family's generosity over the years knows no bounds. They've donated to practically every organisation in town, and even sponsored Winchester's world-famous dog show, which this year will be June 5th, on the Common, starting at 2:30 with dog tricks and pet owner look-alike contests, and hosted by, me! Hosted by me. Well, now back to their generosity. In every brown paper bag on your table is a $100 gift certificate to Home Depot, courtesy of Fells Hardware, which I think is unbelievable. And now a special nod to our guest of honour tonight, Kevin, the super glue of Fells Hardware Enterprise, the man who holds the quirky old hardware store together through thick and thin, and he'll tell you himself, through the recent economic slowdown, it's mostly been thin, much like his hairline. No, that wasn't. I've taken that out. Well, he works 6 days a week on the counter. On Sundays, he takes stock of the store and his life, and wonders, what happened? For the past 11 years, Fells Hardware has been voted the #1 hardware store in Winchester. For the past 11 years, Fells Hardware has been the only hardware store in Winchester. Make no mistake, there's a reason for that. The Ryan family have connections. No other hardware store in Winchester, connections. There's no Home Depot on the Stone and Winchester line, connections. The chairs and barrels on the sidewalk with no permits, connections. The forklift truck with no permit or license, connections. Citizens of the Year, connections. Don't mess with the Ryan family. You know, America's a great country. Here I am, an Englishman from London, and my partner, Jane, from Stockholm, Sweden. And here we are in Woburn, honouring Winchester's Citizen of the Year, an Irish family who live in Reading. In this room, we are all connected to the service and convenience that is Fells Hardware. Yes, you can get it cheaper at Lowe's, but is it worth it? No. In most cases, it is. But it's a long way to drive from Winchester, when for twice the price, you can have it right there in your hands. Or at least it'll be in next Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the newly formed Coalition Parliament of England and the King and Queen of Sweden, I proclaim the Ryan family and Fells Hardware worthy recipients of the Citizens of the Year 2010.
Thank you very much. Outstanding. The last speaker was flying in from Chicago from True Value, and my understanding is that... Oh, here he is. This is Elwood Mumford. You Mr. Mumford? This is Elwood Mumford, True Value Home Office from Chicago, Illinois.
Before you, could you point out the Ryan? As Mr. Solomon just told you, my name is Elwood Mumford, and I'd like to bring you the well wishes tonight of our True Value CEO, Lyle Heidemann. I'd like to do it, but he didn't send them. I'd like to tell you a few things about the company that you may not know. We do have a slogan that men are like plungers. They spend most of their time either in the hardware store or the bathroom. Our definition of a hardware store is it's similar to a black hole in space. If he goes in, he isn't coming out anytime soon. I had an email correspondence with the Ryans, and I asked them what they did to deserve this honor here tonight. They said whatever it was, they weren't going to do it again. What I have here, this is the True Value book. Actually, it's the True Value Bible. And how can I tell? It says right on the cover, Fell's True Value Bible. This contains every bit of information about Fell's Hardware from the day they started with True Value. True Value has a long and storied history, but according to the book, John Ryan made his first sale to a customer named Noah. He sold him a hammer and some pegs. And it was at that time that John Ryan answered the first hardware question ever asked. When Noah turned to John and said, "John, can you tell me, what's a cubit?" If you're not religious. American Express. They stole that great line from John Ryan. It was John Ryan that first said, "Duct tape, never leave home without it." John also was a great philosopher. He lived by these simple rules. You only need two tools in life, WD-40 and duct tape. If it doesn't move, and it should, use the WD-40. And if it shouldn't move and does, use the duct tape. The other rule that he lived by was, if you can't fix it with a hammer, you've got an electrical problem. Now, John's afraid that nobody's going to remember him when he's gone. Gee, I can think of several reasons he'll be remembered. He wouldn't like any of them, but I remember them. Fell's Hardware has the sights, sounds, and smells of an old-fashioned hardware store. Dusty old merchandise, the creaking floor, the smell of mothballs. Actually, when I came out, I could get that aroma of mothballs, but I think it's coming from Kevin's suit. That's the same suit he wore in 1986 to the big True Value convention in Altoona. And what can you say? What can you say about men who are admired, revered, and loved by everyone? I could start by saying they're not the men that we're honoring here tonight. What would Kevin and Bruce be doing if they didn't have the family business? Well, at True Value, just in case anybody has a problem, we'd like to give them a little IQ test so we can help them down the road if they need it. Kevin and Bruce, this would be them.
Attention Kmart shoppers, we have another Blue Light special for you.
They do have some culture, though. Kevin and Bruce went to the ballet. And they sat there and they watched the ballerinas dancing around on their toes. And at the end of the ballet, Kevin turned to Bruce and said, "Why don't they just get taller girls?" Now, this book not only has the facts and the figures and all the numbers and all the inventory they've ever carried, we also send in secret shoppers. We have our ways. So this book contains information about their customers and how well they are served. Now you may know some of the names that I mentioned here, but as far as we're concerned, this is a public record. We've got no problem. So if anybody feels bad, I apologize. But to show you how they treat their customers, Brian LaPointe. I guess Brian's in the heating business there in Winchester. He came in looking for a particular hammer. And he asked Bruce, how much is the hammer? And Bruce said, no, it's $14.95. Well, Brian said, geez, I just came from Winton Hardware over on Mount Vernon Street, and they only wanted $10.95 for the same hammer. So Bruce said, well, why don't you go back over there and get it? It's a much better buy. So Brian said, well, I would, but they're out of stock. And Bruce said, well, we're out of stock. They're only $8.95. Another customer, Peter Keene. He came into the store and he told the boys he needed a saw. He had to cut down 10 trees in his backyard. He had to do it in one day. So they sold him a saw. Peter came back in the next morning, put the saw on the counter and said to them, hey guys, this saw just didn't do the trick. He said, I only cut down one tree. It took me the entire day to do it. With that, Kevin took the saw, pulled the cord. All of a sudden, Peter, what the hell is that noise? Chris Mulhern, I guess he's a big shot here in the chamber. He came in looking for some nails. And Bruce asked him, how long do you want them? Chris said, I need to keep them. I'm building a shed. Sherman Whip Saltmarsh. Whip. You know, in the Midwest, we don't have nicknames like that. But I guess it's I'll call him Whip. Well, he came in, and he was looking for a file. And he had a parakeet in his hand. So Kevin came over to him and said, gee, Whip, can I help you? What do you need? He said, well, I want to make my parakeet sing like a canary. He said, so you have to file off part of his beak. So I was missing a beat. Kevin walked right over, pulled a file off the shelf, and he said to Whip, this is a #2 Nichols bastard file. He said, but just be careful. If you file too much off that beak, this bird's liable to drown drinking the water. So Whip left the store. A few weeks later, Whip came in, and Brian asked Whip, how's the bird doing? And Whip lamented and said, I hate to tell you, he said, but the bird's dead. So Brian said, you filed too much off the beak? Whip said, no, dead when I took him out of the vise. He came into Fell's one day and picked up a can of fly spray, and he says, is this good for wasps? Bruce said, no, it'll kill them. The sexton from the Christian Science Church. He came in to buy some exterior paint. Kevin picked out some nice paint for him, and the sexton said, gee, they're not going to go for this back at the church. He said, it's kind of expensive. He said, can I thin the paint out? And Kevin said, I'd advise against it. Sexton bought the paint anyway, went back up to the church, and they painted the church. The next day, the torrential downpours, all the paint washed off the church. Brings what he had left of the paint back into Kevin, and he said, Kevin, he said, all the paint washed off the church. Kevin, all he could say to him was, repaint, 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 and never thin again. Judy Manzo. Hey, you think it's easy up here? Come on out. You look at this crowd. Judy Manzo came in, told Kevin that she needed a 3/4-inch pipe plug. So Kevin said, do you want a male plug, or a female plug, or both? Judy said, I just want to stop a leak. I don't want to raise them. Many, many years ago, there was an Officer Pronsky, I guess, here in town. Matter of fact, I think I got a parking ticket from this guy in Chicago. He came in one day looking for a toilet seat, and he informed Kevin that someone had stolen the seat at the police station. So Kevin said to him, have you got anything to go on? I know, it's getting late. In the old days, it was the pot-belly stove that was the focal point of the store. Today, it's the counter. And Kevin and Bruce
trade tales with their customers over stale peanuts and week-old munchkins. And here's a couple of examples of the stories that are told. Gene Ty, a local electrician, he tells the story of how he was called by the warden at Walpole when they were having a problem with the electric chair just before an execution. So Gene went out in the middle of the night and worked on it for a few hours, but he was just stymied. So he told the warden, this thing is a death trap. John Lane, local undertaker, he once said, I get thrown out of hardware stores because I make the stud finders go off. Hey, I could have picked a lot of people out there. Then I'll end up with this one last story about how Bruce and Kevin like to tell the story about the time that Dr. Cass was unable to find a plumber in the middle of the night. So he didn't know what to do, but he knew he could count on Orion. So he called Kevin at home, and Kevin got Bruce and the two of them in the middle of a cold, dark night, went over to Dr. Cass's house and walked in, and Dr. Cass said, geez, I appreciate you coming out. The toilet's clogged. I just don't know what to do. So Kevin and Bruce walked into the bathroom, lifted the toilet seat, threw in 2 aspirin, told them if it's still clogged in the morning, call us. Yeah. Now, even though True Value didn't send anything, those cheap. And don't you think I didn't try? We just want you to know, Kevin, and you can take this back to Bruce and to your father, that in our book, you're aces.
I hope the volcano doesn't keep him from getting back to Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to introduce Kevin's son, Andrew Ryan.
Before I start, I gotta warn you, I'm a little nervous up here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alexander Ryan, the lost son of Kevin Ryan, as the Winchester paper so nicely put it. Really, on a serious note, on behalf of my family, I'd like to personally thank the fine citizens of Winchester and the Chamber of Commerce, and Kathy Alexander for getting me up here to speak. I would like to personally thank all of you for bestowing this prestigious honor upon my family, and I mean, this is, if you ask my father, he's just dumbfounded by this award, absolutely. As you may or may not know, my uncle and my grandfather are unable to attend this evening, but they're here in spirit, definitely. They both would want to be here. I can remember being a very small child and my grandfather pulling me aside and saying, you know, this is the place to be. This is definitely the place to be. You got great people, you got a great family, you got a great surrounding. And if he taught me anything, it's to respect the people of Winchester. You guys have done an unbelievable job for, a number of you have done an unbelievable job for this town. And I'd like to think that I've made some friends over the years by working at Fell's Hardware. Certainly a lot of you have been very polite to me over the years when maybe I didn't deserve it sometimes. But I'd just like to thank you. And God bless America.
is 9:06. Oh, yeah, Charles. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to introduce Chris Mulhern, who's the president of the Winchester Chamber of Commerce. Chris.
Hi there. I'm Chris Mulhern. I have the honor and privilege to be the president of the chamber, and I'm in the second year of a 2-year stint, so I'm happy about that. I want to thank a couple of people. First of all, I want to thank the board of the chamber, most of whom are sitting at the table on my far right, and also I want to mention Larry Murray, who's a member of the board who didn't really make the list, but he's still on the board. So, you know, that's good. The person who does the most to make this event happen year over year is Kathy Alexander. Kathy is the executive director of the chamber, and she and her cohort are the ones who make this event possible every year. In addition to that, one of the pet projects that Kathy has been involved in is memorializing all of the citizens of the year by way of a plaque, which the chamber has paid for and will be installed at Town Hall, just outside the clerk's office. And so, Dot, would you get up? Dot Butler is the other person who really makes a huge difference in this. So I want you to help Kathy, all right? So the chamber has funded this project. Kathy's been the spearhead of it, and Kathy and Dot have got to the point where it's now ready for prime time, and therefore I'd like them to unveil it now. So as I said, this is going to be just outside the clerk's office in Town Hall. And there's space for a few more names, so we're not done yet. Wait, thanks, you guys. Yeah, man. The other thing that's different this year about the Citizen of the Year award is the way that this came to happen. And I want to just recognize a difference in the process that's pretty unique, and why this award really exemplifies the business community of Winchester. And the reason is this. The reason that Kevin Ryan and the Ryan family's name came to the committee was because of a citizen's petition. And in my memory, this is the first time this has ever happened. There were 51 names on a series of petitions that were circulated and signed off. So that's really very unique in my experience. And the person who was the spearhead behind all of that was Richard Howard. Richard, would you stand up, please? Thank you so much. So one more announcement here. Kevin's going to be in the Yenka Parade. Instead of just closing his store this year, he's going to be riding as a passenger in an electric car. Now, this is pretty cool. The electric car was built by students at Winchester High School. Kevin's going to be riding in the car, and the car is going to be auctioned by the Winchester Foundation for Educational Excellence next Saturday. So if any of you are interested in being the proud owner of this unique vehicle, which will have been ridden in by Kevin, you have an opportunity to bid on it at the Whiffy auction next Saturday night. All right, so that's cool. Yeah. So
I've been in Winchester for 25 years. I'm the next big newcomer. The one thing that I really regret is that I have never participated in a Christmas party in the basement of Fells Harbor. I heard, and I've heard this from a number of my colleagues here, that these events were epic. So, anyway, Kevin, we have a gift for you. We'd like you to come up and accept it. Is this it, Kathy? Yeah, all right. So this gift comes with a stipulation, and that is that it has to be prominently displayed in the store. And if you need any advice about how to hang it up, go to Fells Harbor. This is the chance afterward on opening for Kevin to make a few remarks if he's so inclined.
Just like home, Cat.
Just throw it on the floor.
There we go. Says the Winchester Chamber of Commerce 31 Citizen of the Year, May 12, 2010, the Ryan family, John, Kevin, and Bruce. And thank you all very much. Hat tonight was because nobody recognized me in the first group of pictures to hit. And Bill Ryson, the photographer, said, you know, you ought to wear that hat at the gathering. And I said, well, I will. And on behalf of my father, John, and my brother, Bruce, and my son, Andrew, I'd like to thank the town of Winchester for 83 years of unbelievable support. To us, it's just been fantastic, a great run, and we plan to continue it as long as we can. I'd like to thank Kathy Alexander and the Chamber of Commerce for making this slightly unusual choice because we're not technically residents of Winchester. But if you would ask my wife Carol, who's the only one who knows how much time I really spend here, she would tell you that I visit Reading to sleep. She's been very, very supportive over the years. And you know, if it wasn't for her, this couldn't go on because she's the one that gets the phone call that says, I'm not coming to supper tonight. I got some stuff I have to put away. Or the most recent phone call that said, I'm not going to be able to make the Aruba trip this year due to staffing issues. And she knows how supportive that Winchester is to us, and she knows how much Winchester means to me, and she's always very kind. And I thank you for that, Carol. I love you. Couldn't be here tonight. I know towards the end of my father's working career, he used to mix those two statements up. That's what I'll say. He was 86 years old, and you know, when I was 9 years old, I remember my father bringing home very proudly a new Fells Hardware yardstick. And on one side it said Fells Hardware, and to turn it over it said the Friendly Hardware Store. Well, I was 9 years old. I said, that's the most stupid thing I've ever heard. And little did I know that Bruce and I would spend the rest of our years trying to keep that little motto alive. My brother Bruce, what can you say? What can you say about a man who puts on a winter coat drive every year for the homeless? You know? And he takes those coats, and we get hundreds of coats, and he boxes them up. He takes them to the post office, takes out his own wallet, and sends them to the St. Francis house, and he does this almost every night of the winter. He's never spoken to anyone at the St. Francis house. He just knows that they need coats, and he does it. not long ago, he hooked up with the Mission of Deeds. And someone there asked him if Fells Hardware would be willing to go along with their Buy a Bed campaign that they do every Christmas. And Bruce said, well, sure, we'll take care of that. And thanks to all of you, we have been the #1 contributor to the Buy a Bed campaign for Mission of Deeds for the last 2 years. We have a very special customer. Actually, we have thousands of them. But we have one very special customer who came in last winter and asked me about the Buy a Bed campaign. She said, how much is it? And I said, it's $1. $1, we'll put your name up on one of these little yellow tags. She said, no. How much is it to buy a whole bed? And I said, well, the beds cost $90 a piece. And she flipped out 3 $100 bills at me and said, I don't want my name on that list. That's Winchester right there. You know, that's where I work. And by the way, there were 7 other full donors that gave entire beds this Christmas. And it was a great turnout from my customers to the Mission of Deeds. And let's not forget Bruce's pictures. Now, the pictures in the window of the theater, the pictures, the military pictures, he has a different military picture in the window every other month. He puts something in there to honor the military. And the photographs on the counter of all of you, if you flip through it, yeah, I mean, it's like a list of Winchester. It's a fantastic thing, and it is amazing how long people will come in and sit and flip those pictures that Bruce puts out there. He takes every one himself. He does it all himself. And let's not forget the pictures he takes of the kids that paint our windows at Halloween. He takes down their names and he takes the pictures of these people and he sends a nice little note to all the parents that were there with the pictures of their children. He's quite a guy. And let's not forget and last but not least, let's not forget the peanuts. It was Bruce's idea to put the peanuts on the counter. And last year, you ate over 700 pounds of peanuts in those 2 little plastic tubs. Thank you, Bruce. And just in case I didn't get my point across, I think my brother Bruce is a giant among men. Bruce and I couldn't do what we do if we didn't have a great staff. Now, John Maney has worked for us for 17 years. Some of you might not know, most of you do, that John lived on Wedgmere Avenue for 20 years. He bought his house in 1977 and sold it in 1996. So, if you do the math, you know that John does not have to work at Fells Hardware. He works there because he likes working with us and he likes working with you. And I thank you, John. You know, and it doesn't hurt business at all that John's wife, Connie, is probably one of the most loved grammar school teachers that ever walked through any hall of Winchester School. And I would thank Connie. My son Andrew, we call him G4. He's the 4th generation of Ryan to work at Fells Hardware. We've stolen every Saturday of his life since he was 13 years old. He started working for me when he was 10. You see, we were first getting computerized, and I had no idea about computers. At 10, he was much better versed than I was, and he came down and started right then. He's been with us ever since. You know, when he finishes school, he's finishing college in a few years, he's going to have to make his choice about what he's going to do in the future, and I think that this event may have swayed his decision a bit. Thank you. Carmen Fulcillo came to work for us when he was 14 years old. He worked all through high school and college, and when Carmen graduated from Bentley, he got a suit, coat, and tie job at Raytheon. He's a financial analyst there. I love it when my boys get those suit coat ties. Every Saturday, Carmen sheds that suit coat and comes back to his roots at Fells Hardware. And I can't thank you enough. John Dunleavy, I'm not sure he's still here. He's a young man. John, are you still here? John Dunleavy. John Dunleavy is our newest employee, and he does a great job. Thank you, John. Thank you. He's never going to see that hockey game. There's some past Team Fells members in the employee. My Uncle Bill, he worked for us way back when it was Fells Plumbing and Heating. And he told me he worked with the inventory. And I'm sure it's not his fault that there's still 10,000 pounds of Fells Plumbing and Heating down cellar in the basement. Brad Otis worked with us for over 10 years during the 80s and the 90s. John Ralphs, he worked for us for 17 years. Mike Sirocco started when he was 8 years old, and he worked for us for a very long time. Rich Calabrese down here was my right-hand man for years. And could all you Fells guys, John, all you guys, could you stand up for a minute? And I would love a round of applause for Team Fells. You know, everywhere I go, whether it's a wedding, or if I'm on vacation, or even behind the counter of my own store, I always get asked the same question. How are you guys doing with all the Home Depots and Lowe's around? Well, when I'm in Winchester, it's pretty easy to answer the question. I go, we're in Winchester. But when I go to other parts of the country, I always use this true story to get my point across. And it is a true story. One day, a fella came in and he told me he had just had his lawn seeded. And he wanted 2 of the best sprinklers that we had. And I told him that these sprinklers cost 65 bucks a piece. And he said, I don't care, I want the best. And while we were walking over to the sprinklers, he says, I also want 2 of the most expensive 100-foot garden hoses you have. I said, okay. And so as I was getting the hose, he said, listen, give me some good hose nozzles. I want 2 good hose nozzles. My wife does not like to get sprayed by hose nozzles. So well, those of you who know me well know that that stuff was on the counter in 30 seconds. Well, on his way to the counter, he saw the tennis balls. And he said, how much are your tennis balls? I said, $3.59. He goes, whoa, that's high. And that sale taught me a good lesson, and that is that you people here will do anything to be part of Fells Hardware. As long as I don't mess with your tennis game. What a community we have here. I'm so proud to be part of it. Right after it was announced that we had won this great award, I'm still shocked and thrilled. 2 very Winchester people, both men, on different days, came to tell me how happy they were that we had won this award and how much we meant to their community. And they both had tears in their eyes. I think it was at that point that I realized that Fells Hardware is a whole lot more important to this community than the 4 little walls that contain it. And I thank you all for that. So often I go home and feel something about that particular day that just wasn't right. We're out of ceiling paint. How could we be out of ceiling paint? The sprinklers are low and it's going to be hot tomorrow. And who's going to believe that the True Value Warehouse didn't have any sump pumps when we need sump pumps below? And it's those type of thoughts that haunt me. And they have haunted me for 40 years. It's because I never can get it right, never. Well, I don't mind saying it feels pretty right tonight. Thank you. At least 20 years ago, I came up with a little line that said, Fells Hardware, part of the heart of Winchester. I liked the way it sounded. I liked what it meant. But I could never use it, because who says we're part of the heart of Winchester? Well, you guys said it tonight, and again, I thank you for that. A good customer came into the store just last Friday and was talking to me, And he said, I remember you when you were in high school, when you were first working down here. And he said, I remember you didn't like it very much to work at the hardware store. He says, but then something clicked. And he says, and you've been great ever since. So I thought about it. And I looked at me, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and I couldn't come up with what he meant. So I took his money and said goodbye. But as I look out here tonight, I see it was you people that made the click, and I thank you for that. You are my click. A little earlier, I introduced our newest employee, John Dunleavy. John's a very special young man. Last year, John won a gold medal at the Special Olympics. Just last month, John was able to walk from the high school to the hardware store to his job, all by himself for the first time. And John, I'm very proud of you for that. Great job. Great job. You know, on John's very first day, he was sitting down on the floor, using a dustpan and brush, sweeping up a little pile of dirt that I had put there for him. And he looked up at me, grinning from ear to ear, and he said, I love this job. And I couldn't help but think of that moment, John, so do I. Thank you, Winchester.
Ladies and gentlemen, that completes our program, and I just have one message for all. The Ryans have agreed to stick around to meet anybody who wanted to shake their hands or say hello that they might not have seen tonight, so they'll be here for a short time. I hope everybody had a good time and enjoyed this great honor to be in companionship with the Ryans. Have a good night.